Today's guest, Richard Tierney, is a teacher and advocate who challenges how we see mental health, especially in children. He believes our feelings and instincts are not disorders, God given guides, and true healing means addressing the root cause, not just medicating symptoms. Through his work, Richard introduces powerful, spiritually grounded solutions, including a new 12-step program designed to heal the hole in the soul. His mission is simple but profound. Nurture our children, heal our wounds, and transform the future. Welcome to the show, Richard. It's such an honor to have you.
Very much for having me. My name is Richard Tierney. I'm originally from Ireland, but I'm living in Thailand. I'm married. I've got 2 children, and I'm here to talk to you about both children's health and adult mental health. In the face of any danger, we are meant to take some form of action. So if we feel anxious or depressed, or we can't stop crying, or we're throwing a tantrum, or we want to disassociate, we want to run away, we want to hide, we're allowed to do that. That's part of protecting and preserving the human race. We have an obligation to the human race. When threatened with any danger, real or imaginary, we're meant to take an action to be safe. Whatever that is for you is right for you. Nobody can see into your soul. Nobody can see why God made you the way you are, or why your response is to run away, and my response is to freeze, whereas somebody else may be a fighter, and they may think we're cowards because we're running away and we're hiding. But it's not about cowardice. We're trusting our God-given instincts for us as the individual to take what's the best action for each of us. I like to share at this point a story with most people about the Vikings. Back in the day of Vikings, when Vikings would attack a village, each member of the tribe had a specific role to play. Those who could fight would take up arms to defend the village. Those who could run away with the children would run for the hills and hide out in caves. Those who were too old, the infirm, the sick, they would hide in plain sight, pretend they were dead, hide under haystacks, under the floorboards, whatever, and be very still and pretend they were dead. And the fourth group would go into the temple or the church, and they would pray for deliverance, that God would deliver them from this peril. Each person had a specific role to play. They didn't think that those who were running away, protecting the children, were cowards, or those who were hiding were cowards, or those who ran to the church were cowards. Everyone had a specific role to play. Now, there's no Vikings nowadays, there's no saber-toothed tigers, but our instincts haven't changed. When we feel some threat, we respond with response of fight, flight, freeze, or acceptance. Fight, it doesn't have to be fighting physically. It could be standing up for yourself. It could be sending an email. It can be telling your parents or your boss or your colleagues or your teacher that you're being bullied or teased. It can be leaving the house and hiding in your grandparents' house, or hiding up a tree, or hiding in a bush, or hiding in the spare room, or in the closet, or behind the wardrobe, or under the bed, or in the bed. Running away and hiding is perfectly natural, normal behavior for some people. For me, my response was freeze. I would tend to, in that space, I would shut down mentally, emotionally, and physically, and I would go to a safe place in my mind, into my fantasies. I'd go somewhere where I'd leave the building mentally and emotionally. I'd go somewhere I feel safe. It could be a Western, or it could be swimming with dolphins, or it could be climbing trees with squirrels. Somewhere where I felt I was away from the trouble, the danger, and I could feel safe in that moment. And if back in my real world I was being beaten up or being abused, I wouldn't feel it because I wouldn't be present. When I came back into the room, I may feel the bumps and bruises, but in that moment when the abuse is happening, I am not there. I've left the building. That worked for me. For other people, they may want to run away. Other people, they want to defend themselves and fight. We're all differently unique spiritual human beings that have different ways of coping with our danger. And whatever that is, it's okay to behave in that manner. So we have this foundation, and if we're not taught the responses to our feelings are perfectly okay, first of all, to feel the feelings, and then to actually take an action. If we think that they're in some way a disorder, and we can't have our feelings or feel our feelings, that anxiety is a disorder, depression is a disorder, anger could be bipolar, throwing a tantrum could be bipolar, it could be ADHD. If we allow other people to form an opinion that defines who we are, then we are sabotaging our lives. As long as we don't harm ourselves or another human being, we can't take a wrong action. But suppressing our emotions and not taking the appropriate action and medicating ourselves is harming ourselves. And this is not the way forward. But the world would have us do this. The world would have us medicate and shut down our feelings and emotions and deny us the right to take action for ourselves. So we become wards of the state, dependent upon the state, dependent on doctors, dependent on medication, and we lose the ability to be solely independent. And I shared on our last podcast together that in this day and age, 290 million children, the future of the human race, have been diagnosed with mental disorders. Children as young as 10 years of age have been diagnosed by mental health professionals as having disorders. And what they're talking about are those child's feelings of anxiety, depression, sadness, anger, abandonment, frustration, blame, shame. They're being told they are mental disorders and they're not to have those emotions, that when they have any emotion, they're meant to medicate. And that's a crime against humanity and a crime against these children. And it's shameful. It's a sin against God. Everything of this is wrong. I love Ben Shapiro spoke about the fact that we should be protecting children. We shouldn't allow anyone interfere with the growth of a child until the child's at least 25. If you think about a child growing up in the home in their early years, in the early 2 to 3, 4 years of age, they're living at home with the parents and the siblings. They know one set of feelings, and it's meant to be love, that they know and understand love from a mother, from a grandmother, from the children, and attention and being doted upon. And then they're sent off to play school. And that day when the parents leave them at play school and walk away, they experience the first expression of abandonment. Why are the parents leaving them there after all this attention to get? Suddenly they're being abandoned, and they go through their whole phase of learning it's okay for the parents to leave them there, and they're going to get home, and these feelings all change. And then they get to adolescence from the age of 7 to about 12, where they go through about forming friendships and losing friendships, and someone leaves the classroom or goes to a different country or a different town or whatever, and those breakups in friendships and loss of friendships, but also the budding of friendships. And then from about 12 to 19, they experience sexuality. And that's about having sex, but they start learning about being attracted to somebody and liking somebody, but them not liking you back, or asking them out and they say no, or someone asking you out and you saying no, or going out with somebody and breaking up, the first breakup, the first kiss. All these experiences help develop a person's feelings and emotions to become the person that they're meant to be. And if we block children from the age of 10 to 19 of ever experiencing their emotions and to think that emotions are disorders, we are destroying the ability for them to become perfectly normal human beings, the future of our human race. We're depriving ourselves of our future leaders by blocking them into thinking they can't feel. If they feel they have a mental disorder, they can't feel, they have to suppress everything. We're destroying them before they get a chance to become human beings. And that's the start of everything that then leads into adult mental wellness.
Makes sense.
So then we come into adulthood and we leave home and we start our own lives. Many people still live at home till maybe in the 30s, but generally speaking, we start life and we get a job and whatever. We try to go to extended high school for college and higher education. But some stage, we start becoming adults, young adults and into adults. And then if we've suffered any trauma in our past, we seem to sold the idea that what happened in the past defines who we are, and we have to suffer it for the rest of our days. And so we have all these conditions like PTSD and depression disorder and bipolar disorder. But the truth is, the very first time we go to see a therapist, and I've shared this in other podcasts, if I have a sore tooth and it's killing me and I need to see a dentist, and the day I go to see the dentist, my tooth isn't hurting me, I don't tell the dentist, no, my tooth's fine now, I don't need you. I will describe to him the worst case scenario of how bad the tooth can be, so that he can work out what's wrong and he can treat the tooth. If I have a sore back, a pulled muscle, and the day I go to see the doctor, there's nothing wrong with my muscle, I don't say, no, my back's fine now, thanks very much, I don't need to see you. I describe what it was like on Monday and last night and Tuesday and the other day and whatever, so the doctor can make a calculated understanding of what the problem is, whether it's a pulled muscle or something more. The same thing when we have a past trauma memory. When we describe the memory to the therapist, we share with him all the different aspects of it. I have nightmares, I have flashbacks, I get triggered easily, people press my buttons easily, I can be really, really angry, very, very depressed, very sad, very felt being abandoned and whatever. And we share all this with therapists. And the therapist takes all that information and puts it together as one thing and says, well, you have PTSD, or you have depression, or you have bipolar disorder. That's not the real truth, because in all of that, we have our lucid moments. We're able to do our regular 9 to 5 job. We may be not very interactive with other people, but we're able to complete a job and get paid and go to work and come home from work. And we're not depressed or having stress all the time. We have our moments like we have nightmares, not all the time, but we have nightmares, we have flashbacks, or people can press the buttons, but it's not happening all the time. What we suffer with is a sense of hopelessness and of being broken and not being good enough, being inferior. And that's what we present when we see a therapist. But they can't treat hopelessness or inferiority because they are spiritual maladies. They are something that is wrong with your soul. The broken spirit is to do with your soul, nothing to do with mental or emotional well-being. But they can't treat the soul because that's not their field. So they will tell you the problem isn't the past. The problem is how you're responding to the past. And those responses of stress and anxiety, they are the problem. They are your disorder. But science tells us it's all about cause and effect. The cause is what happened in the past, this broken spirit, this hopelessness, this inferiority. That's what you need to treat, not your coping skills and how you stay sane, because that's what all the stress and depression is. You coping with this to stay safe and sane. And some therapists tell you that your coping skills or a mental disorder is insane. It's lunacy. Your coping skills were your best efforts to stay sane, that you didn't kill somebody or kill yourself. You may have had nightmares. You may have got up and walked around. You may have screamed and shouted and beat a pillow or something. You may have drank. You may have drugs. You may have thrown a tantrum or cried your eyes out or something. But they were you just trying to keep it all in. That wasn't a mental disorder. That was you with your best coping skills. And the fact that your best coping skills were frowned upon by the therapist, or they wouldn't be the responses your therapist had, doesn't give them the right to tell you it's a mental disorder, because it isn't. And you know this deep down in your soul. You're not mentally ill. You have a hole in your soul. You have a spiritual malady that causes hopelessness and inferiority in the sense of being broken. And if I say to you, you have a broken spirit, that resonates with you. You know that straight away that that's the truth. Something in the past caused you to lose a sense of innocence about being a human being around other people. When you saw what one human did to another, to you or to somebody else, that broke a sense of innocence of that man is not meant to do, man. We're meant to be the expression of God. We're meant to be love. So when someone does something highly destructive or dysfunctional that is the total opposite of love, it's like it breaks our sense of innocence of what it is to be a real human being. And that innocence is what we're carrying around in our soul that's broken, our broken spirit. And we have to treat that, not the effects. So we have to treat the cause. So I've created a program called Trauma Recovery Anonymous. It's a 2-part program, and it gets you to heal the hole in your soul first. And it takes no more than 2 hours. It sounds crazy if you're a veteran, you have been diagnosed with PTSD, and you've been in therapy for 10, 20, 30 years with 10, 20, 30 therapists. And I come along and tell you, you can heal yourself in 3 hours. You've been thinking I'm on drugs, or I'm some lunatic left out of the asylum, and what's this girl doing interviewing me, and I'm talking through my bottom. But the truth is, what happened in the past didn't happen to the person you are today. So an example of this, again, last week, I like listening to Charlie Kirk. I'm not a member of any denomination or any church or any man-made religion, but I love the way he speaks so plainly about the concept of God and having God in your life. And I just like listening to him. For my own reasons, I like listening to him. Again, I'm not a member of any religion. I don't know what denomination he is. Whatever he is, I'm not a member of his denomination. But his words always resonate with me. I always like listening to him. So the man I was last week, on this day last week, listened to Charlie Kirk. Today, unfortunately, Charlie Kirk is no longer with us. He was assassinated. So my life has changed because I can never listen to Charlie Kirk again. So I'm a different person today than the person I was 3 days ago or 4 days ago or 5 days ago, because 3, 4, 5 days ago, Charlie Kirk was alive. Today he's not alive. So my life has changed because I no longer have him sharing his truths that have resonated with me. And that's the truth. Same as the person I am today, a 64-year-old man. I'm a husband and a father. I'm living in Thailand. Both my parents are dead. All my grandparents are dead. All my aunts and uncles bar one are dead. And one of my siblings died of leukemia. The family home I grew up in is sold. I now live in Thailand, 7,000 miles away from Ireland, from my family of origin. And I'm married. I've got 2 adults, teenage children attending university. And my life is completely different today. And then I think wrote all that down on a page, my autobiography of who I am today. I'd add in all my hopes and dreams and aspirations, my interests, my hobbies, all that on that piece of paper. I might put a picture on the side showing this old 64-year-old man with gray hair and a gray beard. And then on the other page, I would write an autobiography of the younger version of me who suffered the trauma. In this case, was a 12-year-old child in my past. And since I call myself Richard, I would call him Richie, just to separate me from him. So on my page is 64-year-old Richard. On his page is 12-year-old Richie. 12-year-old Richie is a child. He lives with his parents who are alive. His grandparents are alive. All his aunts and uncles are alive. He lives in the family home, which is still the family home. All his siblings are still alive. That one who died of leukemia hasn't died yet. He's a child going to school. And if I put a picture of him on that page, I can see clearly I'm not that child. So what happened to that child didn't happen to me. And this is the truth of it. If you can come to see, do this practice, get 2 sheets of paper, put yourself on one sheet and your younger self on the other sheet. And if you're a veteran, let's say only a year ago, well, then it's 64-year-old Richard, 63-year-old Richie. If it's 2 months, if it's a day ago, 64-year-old Richie today, 64-year-old Richard yesterday. Whatever way you work it, you want to separate you from the other person. Yesterday, this person was there, full of innocence. Today, you're no longer that innocence. There's a difference in both of you. And if you can do this exercise and put down how your goals and aspirations and dreams are different to his or hers, you will see that the past is none of your business. It didn't happen to you. Then you take a sheet of paper up and you put down everything that you have in your life today that is your concern. Don't bring the past into it. But so my obligations today are to my wife and my children, my home, all my bills, all my clients, all my customers, my interests and my hobbies are a responsibility towards those. My family of origin, my family here, my friends here, and so on. But whatever is here. And then that 12-year-old child, but he has responsibility to be a good son to his parents and a good grandson to his grandparents and a good nephew to his aunts and uncles and a good pal to his school pals and a good friend, a good student to his teachers. And that's his world. And I can clearly see, again, it's 2 different worlds completely. I need to separate myself from that younger self. I need to keep working on who I am today compared to who he is there. I might have 10 or 12 photographs of him as a child, and then 10 or 12 photographs of me today. Me with my wife, him with his best friend. He's a 12-year-old innocent child. I'm a 64-year-old man who's married with children. This kind of thing. You keep doing this. You have to get into your brain. The past is not mine. Even up to yesterday is not mine. My life is just in these 24 hours today. And if you can get to that place where you can really see that your life is only in these 24 hours, then you can heal whatever it is you've been diagnosed with in 3 hours. It's a very simple process. In the first 2 hours, we make a decision to give all of the past back to our younger self, the person who owned it. Our younger self suffered, endured, survived, and overcame a trauma event. And we carry the memory of what happened to them and sympathy pains for them as a show of support and solidarity for what they went through. But they went through it, not us. A 12-year-old child went through that trauma event, not the 64-year-old man. And if I step back into the past and that person came near me, I'd clobber him. He wouldn't get anywhere near me. So I know it didn't happen to me. So I have to stop saying, I was abused as a child. I was molested as a child. It didn't happen to me. I only have life in these 24 hours a day. And there's no abuse, no molesting in my life today. So I have to stop saying what happened to him happened to me. I've got to learn to say, up until this morning, I believe that what happened in the past happened to me. But today I realize, listening to Richard on this podcast, that it's none of my business. It didn't happen to me. I have enough on my plate today without getting involved in something that didn't happen to me in the past and that was dealt with. I know it was dealt with because I wouldn't be alive today if my younger self had been beaten by this trauma. The fact that he overcame it means that he defeated it. And for me to give it life in the present means I'm giving life to a dead thing, and the death and decay and disease of that dead thing is destroying everything it touches and everyone it touches in my life today. For anyone who's walked this path, they'll understand that. Those words that we bring the past into the present. We can't go into the past. So we're bringing the past into the present. And it destroys our relationships with our families, with our partner, with our friends, with our colleagues. We get alienated from everybody because we're leaving a dead thing rule and define us. I'm going to share 5 things with your audience, if I may. First of all, we've been conditioned to think that everything is mental health, when in fact it's a hole in our soul. It's a spiritual illness, a spiritual malady. And if you can start thinking about what the problem is, you have a hole in your soul, and it's a spiritual malady, you'll get there much faster. Number 2, understand that the family you're with or the people you're with right now may not be your tribe. There's nothing wrong with them. They're perfect for each other, but they may not suit you. So you may be a nerd, a geek, a bookworm, a gamer, an introvert, and they're all outgoing social animals. Nothing wrong with them, nothing wrong with you. You're just not in your tribe. When you meet others like you, introverts, nerds, geeks, you'll feel so relaxed. So know your tribe is out there. When you find them, you'll feel much better in yourself. Know that you're never a victim. Whatever happens to you in your life, it's not about you. The other person was venting their stuff. So if my boss decided to fire me today, I'm not the problem. I'm not his target. He employed me to do a job, and for some reason I can't do it. And so he needs someone to do that job. So he's looking to get someone to fill that hole, to do that job. It's not about me. It's about him fulfilling his needs. If someone abused you, it's never about you. It's about them expressing their dysfunctional behavior. And it happened to be that they invaded your space and they made you their victim, but you weren't their intended victim. They would have acted out on anybody. So if you learn not to be a victim in every circumstance of your life, everything will improve. Number 3 is know that there's always a higher power around. Maybe something compelled you to come on to this podcast tonight. It wasn't your intention to come on. Maybe you're roaming through internet and you came on this podcast. You've heard my words and my words resonate with you. And suddenly you have a new outlook on your life. And after 30 or 40 years being diagnosed with mental illness, you now suddenly decide to treat your soul. And in 3 hours, you're able to start over your life. And the final one is, you have to understand whether there is a God or not. And again, I can tell you there is, but you have to find out for yourself. Whatever you read the Bible, listen to spiritual teachers. But when you understand there's a God, there's a wonderful thing about the God thing, having your God in your life. God says that if you seek vengeance and justice on this earth, whether you guess or you don't guess it, your abuser will be given a free pass when he dies. He'll get to go to heaven because you sought vengeance and justice on this earth. But if you give your vengeance and justice and anger to God and you pray for your abuser, he may have the most wonderful life on this earth. But when he dies, he's going to burn the fires of hell for all eternity because you gave your anger to God. And that's the blessing of being a Christ follower. Thank you very much for having me on the show. My name is Richard Tierney. You can contact me via email at richard@traumarecoveryanonymous.com. And my 2-part program is available on Amazon, Trauma Recovery Anonymous and Healing Any Trauma Memory. And the children's program is called How to Live Stress and Anxiety Free 24 hours a day. Please take the time to share this with anybody you can think of who might be beneficial to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was amazing. And as always, I really enjoyed talking to you.
And it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me. And audience, I hope I've offered you some